The docking bay smelled like burning metal and something sweet that made her nose wrinkle. Sarah Chen stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around at the massive space station that would be her home for the next 6 months. Everything was bigger than she expected. The ceilings stretched up so high she could barely see them. Aliens of different shapes and sizes moved through the bay, speaking in languages that her translator chip struggled to process. She pulled her single bag over her shoulder and walked toward the registration desk. The floor beneath her feet was smooth and cold, even through her boots. Every few steps, she had to dodge cargo containers being moved by machines or aliens she had never seen before. The registration desk was staffed by a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished blue stone. Its eyes were completely black and reflected the lights around them like mirrors. "Name and origin," the alien said without looking up from its screen. "Sarah Chen, from Earth." The alien's fingers froze over the keyboard. All 4 hands stopped moving at the same time. Slowly, its head turned toward her, and those black eyes fixed on her face. "Please place your hand on the scanner." Sarah pressed her palm against the glowing panel beside the desk. A soft humming sound filled the air. The screen in front of the alien flashed red 3 times, then turned a deep orange color that pulsed like a heartbeat. "There must be an error," the alien said, but its voice had changed. It sounded nervous now. "What kind of error?" "The network has flagged your designation as Earthborn, priority level maximum, security clearance required for processing." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. She had been told Earth was known in the galactic community, but nobody had explained what that meant. The way this alien was looking at her made her feel like she had done something wrong. "Is that a problem?" Before the alien could answer, alarms started ringing through the docking bay. Red lights flashed along the walls. The other aliens in the area stopped what they were doing and turned to stare at the registration desk. At her. 3 large figures pushed through the crowd. They wore black armor that covered their entire bodies except for their faces. Their skin was gray and covered in scars. Each one stood at least 7 feet tall, with muscles that bulged against their armor. They moved like soldiers, in perfect formation. The leader stepped forward. He had a long scar running down the left side of his face, from his forehead to his jaw. His eyes were yellow with vertical pupils like a cat. "You are the Earthborn?" he asked. His voice was deep and rough. "I'm from Earth, yes. My name is Sarah Chen. I'm here for the cultural exchange program." The warrior laughed, but it was not a friendly sound. "Cultural exchange. They send us one of the Death Worlders and call it cultural exchange." Sarah had heard that term before. Death Worlder. It was what some aliens called humans because Earth was considered one of the most dangerous planets in the known galaxy. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous animals, and diseases that could kill most alien species in hours. Humans evolved to survive all of that. "I'm just a teacher," Sarah said, keeping her voice calm. "I'm here to teach English and Earth history." "Just a teacher," the warrior repeated. He reached down and pulled a long blade from his belt. The metal was dark red and had a curved edge that looked sharp enough to cut through bone. "I am Kravik, champion of the Kelrath Military Academy. I have killed more enemies than you have lived days. I do not believe humans are as dangerous as the network claims." He raised the blade above his head with both hands. The other warriors stepped back. The registration clerk made a sound like a whistle and ducked behind the desk. Sarah did not move. She watched the blade start to fall. Her body reacted before her mind could tell it what to do. Years of training on Earth in the heavy gravity and thin air of the mountains had made her faster than she realized. Her right hand shot up, 2 fingers extended. The blade came down with all of Kravik's strength behind it. Metal met flesh with a sound like a bell ringing. The blade stopped. Sarah held it between her index and middle finger, just inches from her head. She applied pressure, and the metal bent slightly. Kravik's eyes went wide. He pushed harder on the blade, putting all his weight into it. The blade did not move. "You dropped something," Sarah said quietly. She released the blade and stepped back. Kravik stumbled forward from his own momentum. He caught himself and looked down at his weapon. There were 2 deep grooves in the metal where her fingers had been. The blade was ruined. The docking bay had gone completely silent. Every alien in the area was staring at her. Some had their mouths open. Others had taken several steps back. The 2 warriors behind Kravik had their hands on their own weapons, but they did not draw them. Kravik looked at his blade, then at Sarah, then back at his blade. He fell to one knee and placed the broken weapon on the ground in front of her. "The network was correct," he said. "Forgive my arrogance, Earthborn." Sarah felt her face get hot. She had not wanted this kind of attention. All she wanted was to teach some classes and learn about alien cultures. Now everyone was looking at her like she was some kind of monster. "It's okay," she said. "No harm done. Can I please just finish registering?" The alien at the desk nodded quickly, all 4 hands moving over the keyboard at once. "Yes, of course, immediately, Earthborn. Your quarters are being prepared now. Top level. Best view. Complimentary. I already paid for standard quarters. Upgraded. No charge. Please. The station master insists." Kravik stood up, leaving his blade on the ground. "I would be honored to escort you to your quarters, Earthborn, and to offer my services as a guide during your stay." "That's really not necessary." "I insist. I have much to learn from you." Sarah looked around at all the staring faces and realized she had made a much bigger entrance than she planned. This was going to be a long 6 months. Sarah's quarters were not what she expected. The room was enormous, with windows that stretched from floor to ceiling and showed the stars beyond the station. The furniture was too large for her, made for beings much bigger than humans. She sat on the edge of the bed and her feet dangled above the floor. Kravik had walked her through the station, pointing out important locations. The cafeteria where food from 100 worlds was served. The medical bay where doctors from different species worked together. The training halls where warriors practiced combat. Everywhere they went, aliens stopped and stared. Some whispered to each other. Others simply moved out of the way. Now Kravik stood by her door, his arms crossed over his chest. He had not left since they arrived an hour ago. "You can go now," Sarah said. "I need to unpack. I am your guard. It is my duty to protect you." "Protect me from what? I'm on a peaceful research station." "You do not understand yet," Kravik said. He moved further into the room and sat on the floor since the chairs were too small for him. "Let me explain what the network knows about Earth, what all species in the galaxy know." Sarah felt tired. The journey here had taken weeks, and she just wanted to sleep, but the way Kravik was looking at her, she knew this was important. "Okay, tell me." Kravik leaned back against the wall. 300 years ago, the network made contact with Earth. Your people had just developed faster-than-light communication. The network sent ambassadors to welcome humans to the galactic community. They expected humans to be like most new species, weak, eager to learn, grateful for the technology we would share. He paused and looked at the stars through the window. The ambassador's ship landed in what you call Australia. They wore standard environmental suits rated for most dangerous planets. Within 20 minutes, something you call a spider crawled into one ambassador's suit. He died from the venom before they could return to the ship. Another ambassador was stung by a jellyfish in the ocean. She died the next day. The third ambassador developed an infection from bacteria in the air. He survived but was sick for months. Sarah remembered learning about this in school. The first contact had been a disaster. Earth had almost been labeled as too dangerous for any interaction. The ambassadors reported back to the network, Kravik continued. They said Earth was a death world. Class 9 hazard rating. The highest possible rating. Your gravity is twice what most species can handle. Your air is full of oxygen at levels that would poison most of us. Your weather includes storms that can destroy cities. Your oceans have pressures that would crush our ships. And everywhere, every single place on your planet, there are things trying to kill you. We call it biodiversity, Sarah said. We call it madness, Kravik replied. But that was not the most shocking part. The shocking part was that humans thrived there. Not just survived, but built civilizations, created art, developed philosophy. You even considered your world beautiful. Sarah had never thought of Earth as particularly dangerous. It was just home. Yes, there were spiders and snakes and sharks, but you learned to be careful. You paid attention. You respected nature. The network studied Earth from orbit for 10 years, Kravik said. They watched humans climb mountains that had killed dozens of people before. They watched humans dive to the bottom of the ocean just to see what was there. They watched humans run for hours in the heat just for fun. One human even tried to swim with sharks because he thought it would be interesting. That does sound like something we would do, Sarah admitted. The network made a decision. Earth would be contacted again, but with extreme caution. Humans would be allowed to join the galactic community, but information about your world would be restricted. The network flagged all Earth-born individuals in the database. Priority maximum. Because if humans could survive on Earth, what else could they do? Kravik stood up and walked to the window. His reflection looked back at him from the glass. I am considered one of the strongest warriors in my species. I have trained since I was old enough to hold a weapon. I have studied combat for 30 years. My bones are reinforced with metal. My muscles are enhanced with genetic modifications. I am, by any measure, a dangerous individual. He turned to face Sarah. You stopped my blade with 2 fingers. I was using my full strength. That blade was made from compressed durasteel. It can cut through most armor. And you stopped it like it was nothing, like I was a child playing with a toy. Sarah looked down at her hand. There was not even a scratch on her fingers. She had not really thought about it at the time. The blade was coming at her, and she stopped it. Simple reflex. I trained in martial arts back on Earth, she said. Mostly for exercise, and I grew up in the mountains where the air is thin. My parents were geologists, so we moved around a lot. High altitudes, low temperatures. You get used to it. You trained for exercise, Kravik repeated slowly. You consider your abilities normal. I'm really not that special. Most humans could probably do the same thing if they trained. Kravik laughed again, but this time it sounded amazed instead of mocking. Do you understand what you are saying? You are telling me that most humans could bend metal with their fingers, that most humans could move faster than a trained warrior can react, that this is normal for your species? Sarah thought about the humans she knew back on Earth. Her friend Marcus, who ran marathons in the desert heat. Her cousin Lisa, who free-climbed cliffs without safety equipment. Her grandmother, who was 80 years old and still hiked 10 miles every weekend. Maybe they were more capable than she realized. I guess when you put it that way, it does sound impressive, she said. The network was right to flag you, Kravik said. Earth does not produce normal beings. It produces survivors, hunters, warriors who do not even realize they are warriors. And now you are here, on a station with thousands of species who did not evolve on death worlds. You could accidentally hurt someone just by shaking their hand too hard. Sarah felt a cold fear settle in her stomach. She had come here to teach, to share Earth's culture, to learn about other worlds. She had not thought about the danger she might represent just by existing. What should I do? She asked. Learn control, Kravik said. Learn how strong you really are. Learn how to move in a world that is fragile compared to Earth. I will help you. It is the least I can do after challenging you so foolishly. He walked to the door and placed his hand on the panel. It slid open with a soft sound. Rest tonight, Earthborn. Tomorrow your real training begins. I will teach you how to exist among us without breaking everything you touch. And perhaps you can teach me what it means to be strong without even trying. The door closed behind him, and Sarah was alone with her thoughts and the stars. The next morning, Sarah met Kravik in one of the training halls. The room was empty except for them. Kravik had cleared it of other warriors, saying they needed privacy for what he called sensitivity training. "Hold this," Kravik said, handing her a small cube made of glass or crystal. It was beautiful, with light flowing through it in patterns that looked like water. Sarah took it carefully. The moment her fingers touched the cube, it shattered into dust. "Oh, no," she gasped. "I'm so sorry." "Do not apologize," Kravik said calmly. He pulled out another identical cube. "This is made from condensed light particles. It can survive most impacts and pressure, but your casual grip crushed it instantly. Try again. This time, imagine you are holding something as fragile as air itself." Sarah took the second cube with just her fingertips, barely touching it. This one lasted 5 seconds before it cracked and fell apart. They practiced for 2 hours. By the end, Sarah could hold the cube for almost a minute before her natural grip strength destroyed it. Kravik said it was progress. "You think too much like someone from a death world," he explained. "Everything on Earth is strong. Your plants have to be tough to survive your weather. Your animals have to be powerful to compete with each other. Even your buildings are made to withstand disasters. Here, in the rest of the galaxy, things are more delicate, because they can be." Sarah's first class was scheduled for that afternoon. When she arrived at the classroom, 20 alien students were waiting. They represented 12 different species. Some had scales, others had fur. One looked like it was made entirely of water held together by a thin membrane. They all stared at her with expressions she could not read. "Hello, everyone," Sarah said, keeping her voice soft. "My name is Sarah Chen. I'm here from Earth to teach you about human culture and language." A student in the front row raised 3 of its tentacles. "Is it true you can crush rocks with your bare hands?" "No," Sarah said quickly. "That's not true. I mean, some humans can break boards or bricks if they train for it, but that's special training. Most of us can't do that." "But you stopped Commander Kravik's blade," another student said. This one had feathers and a beak. "Everyone on the station saw the video feed. You bent metal." Sarah had not known there was a video. She made a note to ask Kravik about security cameras later. "That was reflexes," she said. "And I didn't mean to bend the blade. I was just trying to stop it." "Just trying," the tentacled student repeated, writing something down on a digital pad. The class was harder than Sarah expected. Every few minutes, a student would ask about Earth's dangers or human abilities instead of focusing on the lesson. She tried to steer the conversation back to English grammar and cultural practices, but they were more interested in survival stories. Finally, Sarah decided to use their curiosity. "Okay, here's a deal. We'll spend half the class on regular lessons, and I'll answer one question about Earth at the end, but only if everyone participates in the lesson. Fair?" The students agreed enthusiastically. The rest of the class went much better. They practiced basic English phrases and learned about Earth's different cultures. When the lesson ended, Sarah prepared for their question. "What is the most dangerous animal on Earth?" the feathered student asked. Sarah thought about it. "That depends on how you measure danger. Mosquitoes kill more humans than any other animal because they spread diseases. But if you mean the scariest, maybe sharks or crocodiles or bears. Hippos are actually more dangerous than people think. And there are these tiny frogs in South America that are so poisonous that just touching them can kill you." The water membrane student made a sound like bubbles popping. "And humans live on the same planet as all these creatures?" "We mostly stay away from them," Sarah said. "We build cities and towns where we're safe, and we've learned to coexist with nature. It's not like we're fighting for survival every day. Though some people do choose to work with dangerous animals. We have zookeepers and wildlife researchers and documentarians who film animals in their natural habitats. They choose to be near the dangerous creatures. The tentacled student seemed shocked. For their occupation? Some people find it fulfilling, Sarah said. They want to understand the animals better, to protect them and their habitats. The students looked at each other with expressions that Sarah was learning to recognize as confusion mixed with awe. After class, Sarah walked through the station's commercial district. Kravik followed at a distance, close enough to help if needed but far enough to give her space. She wanted to buy some fruit from a market stall, but when she picked up what looked like an apple, it squished in her hand and sticky juice ran between her fingers. The merchant, a small creature with 6 eyes, chirped in distress. Please be more gentle. The fruit is very delicate. I'm so sorry, Sarah said, feeling her face burn with embarrassment. How much do I owe you? Nothing, but perhaps you should shop in the heavy world section of the market. Their produce is more suited to your grip strength. Sarah found the heavy world section tucked in a corner of the market. The fruits here had thick skins and felt solid. When she picked one up, it didn't break. The vendor, a large, rocky being, nodded approvingly. You're the Earthborn, yes? We get few customers from Death Worlds here. Nice to see someone who won't break our merchandise. Sarah bought several pieces of fruit and thanked the vendor. As she walked back toward her quarters, an alarm started blaring through the station. Red lights flashed along the walls. Kravik immediately moved to her side, his hand on his weapon. What's happening? Sarah asked. Hull breach in Section 7, Kravik said, listening to something in his communication device. Accident in the engineering bay. 3 workers trapped behind a collapsed bulkhead. The rescue team is trying to reach them, but the metal is too heavy. Their equipment cannot lift it. Sarah started running toward Section 7 before she even thought about it. Kravik ran beside her, not trying to stop her. How heavy is the bulkhead? Sarah asked as they ran. Estimated at 2,000 kilograms, maybe more. The engineering team says their lifting equipment failed. They are bringing more tools, but it will take 20 minutes. The workers may not have that long. The air supply in that section is failing. They reached Section 7 to find chaos. Engineers from different species stood around a massive piece of metal that had fallen from the ceiling and blocked a doorway. Sarah could hear muffled sounds from the other side. Someone was pounding on the metal, shouting for help. The lead engineer, a being with multiple arms and mechanical enhancements, looked up as Kravik approached. Commander, we need heavier equipment. The backup power failed and now we cannot move the... The engineer stopped when he saw Sarah. The Earthborn. Can you lift it? Kravik asked Sarah directly. Sarah looked at the bulkhead. It was massive, easily 10 feet long and 4 feet wide. The metal looked thick and solid. On Earth, she had helped her father move equipment in his geology lab, and some of those machines weighed several hundred kilograms. But 2,000 kilograms was different. Then she heard the pounding from behind the bulkhead again. Weaker this time. I can try, she said. Sarah approached the fallen bulkhead and placed her hands on the cold metal. She could feel the weight of it even before trying to lift. This was not like the training cubes Kravik had given her. This was real, and there were lives depending on what happened next. She thought about her time on Earth, the mountains where she grew up, the thin air at high altitude that made every breath a challenge, the heavy equipment her parents used in their geological surveys that she helped carry when the transport vehicles could not reach remote locations. Her body had adapted to all of it without her really noticing. Sarah took a deep breath. The air on the station was thicker than Earth's mountain air, easier to breathe. That meant more oxygen for her muscles, more strength available. She bent her knees and positioned her hands under the edge of the bulkhead where it had buckled slightly. The engineers stepped back. giving her room. She heard Kravik's voice behind her. "Remember what we practiced? Channel your strength slowly. Do not try to move it all at once." Sarah nodded. She pushed with her legs first, the way she had been taught to lift heavy objects. Her muscles tensed, the metal groaned. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the bulkhead moved. Just an inch, but it moved. Sarah adjusted her grip and pushed harder. The metal began to rise. 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches. She could hear gasps from the engineers around her. The pounding from the other side of the bulkhead had stopped. The trapped workers must have seen the metal moving. "That's enough," the lead engineer shouted. "We can fit rescue equipment through that gap." "Hold it there." Sarah held the bulkhead steady, while 2 engineers with slim frames crawled through the opening with breathing masks and medical supplies. She could hear voices from the other side. Coughing. Someone was crying with relief. "They're getting the workers out now," Kravik said. "Just a little longer." Sarah's arms were shaking, not from the weight, but from the strain of holding still. On Earth, she could have lifted more, but the bulkhead was awkward and unbalanced. She focused on keeping it steady. 3 figures emerged from the gap. 2 engineers supported a third between them who looked injured. Then another 2 came through, moving more slowly. The last one was barely conscious. "Everyone is out," the lead engineer called. "You can lower it now." Sarah set the bulkhead down carefully. It hit the floor with a thunderous boom that echoed through the corridor. She stepped back and flexed her fingers. They were sore but not injured. The rescued workers were already being taken to the medical bay. One of them, a small blue creature with large eyes, looked back at Sarah as they carried him away. He raised his hand in what might have been a wave or a gesture of thanks. The lead engineer approached Sarah. His mechanical arms were trembling slightly. "The calculations said that bulkhead weighed 2,300 kilograms. You lifted it like it was made of paper." "It was really heavy," Sarah said honestly. "I probably couldn't have held it much longer." "You held it for 90 seconds. Our best equipment would have taken 15 minutes to arrive and set up. You saved 3 lives today." Earthborn. News of the rescue spread through the station within hours. By evening, Sarah could not walk through any corridor without being stopped by aliens who wanted to thank her or ask questions. Some brought her gifts. Others simply wanted to see the human up close. She retreated to her quarters, exhausted and overwhelmed. Kravik stood guard outside, preventing any more visitors from disturbing her. Sarah sat by the window and looked at the stars. She had come here to teach, to be a bridge between cultures. Instead, she had become something else, a symbol of human strength, a reminder of what Death Worlders were capable of. A message appeared on her communication panel. It was from the station master, requesting a meeting the next morning. The tone was formal but friendly. Sarah accepted the meeting and tried to sleep. But her mind would not stop racing. She thought about the bulkhead, about Kravik's broken blade, about the fragile cube that shattered in her hands. Everything here seemed so delicate compared to Earth. She wondered what her parents would say if they could see her now. They had always encouraged her to be strong, to push herself, to never let obstacles stop her. But they had also taught her to be careful, to respect the world around her. She needed to find a balance here. The next morning, Sarah dressed in her formal teaching clothes and made her way to the station master's office. Kravik accompanied her, as always. The office was located at the top of the station, with windows that showed the entire star system beyond. The station master was a being unlike any Sarah had seen before. It looked like it was made of light and energy held together in a roughly humanoid shape. When it spoke, the words came from everywhere at once. "Sarah Chen of Earth, thank you for coming. Please sit." Sarah sat in a chair that had been adjusted to her size. Kravik stood behind her. "I wanted to speak with you about yesterday's rescue," the station master said. "What you did was remarkable, but it also raises concerns." Sarah felt her stomach drop. Did I do something wrong? Wrong. No. You saved lives, but your presence here has changed things. Before you arrived, this station operated under certain assumptions about what was possible. Those assumptions have been challenged. The station master moved closer, its energy form pulsing with colors Sarah could not name. We have received requests from 17 different research institutions that want to study you. 4 military organizations want to recruit you. 6 species representatives want to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth based entirely on your demonstrated capabilities. The Network Council is debating whether to change Earth's classification status. I don't want to be studied, Sarah said firmly. I just want to teach my classes and learn about other cultures. I know. And I will refuse all requests that interfere with your stated purpose here. But I need you to understand something important. You are not just a teacher anymore. You are proof of what humans represent. The galaxy has known about Earth for 300 years, but very few humans have left your world. You are only the 43rd human to serve in the Cultural Exchange Program. Every action you take, every word you speak, shapes how other species view your entire planet. Sarah thought about this. 43 humans in 300 years. That was almost nothing compared to the billions of humans on Earth. She was representing a world she barely understood herself. What should I do? She asked. Be yourself, the station master said. Teach your classes, learn from others, but also accept that you have become something more than you planned. You are a bridge, yes, but you are also a reminder that the galaxy is vast and full of surprises. Earth is one of those surprises. A world that should not be able to support intelligent life, yet produced one of the most resilient species we have ever encountered. We're not that special, Sarah said. We're just adapted to our environment. That is exactly what makes you special, the station master replied. You do not see your own strength because it is normal to you. But to us, to every species that evolved on gentler worlds, you are extraordinary. Accept that. Use it to build understanding. Show us not just what humans can do, but why you do it. The station master's form shifted, becoming more solid. I have a request. A delegation from the Vor Empire is arriving next week. They are one of the most powerful military forces in this sector. They respect strength above all else. They have requested a demonstration of human capabilities as part of their visit. Will you participate? Sarah looked at Kravik. He nodded slightly, encouraging her. What kind of demonstration? Sarah asked. A peaceful one. Perhaps a comparison of different species' abilities. Nothing dangerous, but it would be an opportunity to show that Earth's strength comes with wisdom and restraint. Sarah thought about the trapped workers behind the bulkhead, about the fear in their voices when they thought no one could save them, about the relief when they emerged alive. Okay, she said. I'll do it. The week passed quickly. Sarah continued teaching her classes, and each day she got better at controlling her strength. She learned to walk more lightly, to touch things with just enough pressure. Kravik said she was learning faster than he expected. She said it was because she had good motivation. Breaking things was embarrassing. The day of the Vor delegation's arrival, the main assembly hall was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Sarah stood backstage with Kravik and 3 other beings who would be part of the demonstration. One was a Kelrath warrior, like Kravik. Another was a Threxian with 4 arms and enhanced neural processors. The third was a Vorta energy being similar to the station master. Remember, Kravik said quietly to Sarah, this is not a competition, it is an exhibition. Show them what you can do, but also show them that humans value cooperation over conquest. The demonstration began with the Threxian, who displayed incredible speed and precision by assembling a complex machine in under 2 minutes. The audience applauded politely. Next, the Vorta demonstrated energy manipulation, creating shapes and patterns of light that floated through the air. The audience seemed impressed. Then it was Kravik's turn. He stepped into the arena and performed a series of combat techniques, breaking training dummies and metal bars with practiced strikes. His movements were fluid and powerful. When he finished, the Vor delegation leader, a massive being covered in metallic scales, nodded with approval. Finally, it was Sarah's turn. She walked into the center of the arena, feeling hundreds of eyes watching her. The station master had set up a series of challenges that would demonstrate human capabilities without making it look like a military display. The first challenge was a lifting test. A large weight sat on a platform, marked as 1,000 kilograms. Representatives from 3 other species had tried and failed to lift it earlier in the week. Sarah approached it, positioned her feet, and lifted it smoothly over her head. She held it there for 10 seconds, then set it down gently. The audience murmured. The second challenge was about endurance. Sarah ran on a treadmill set to a steep incline at high speed for 30 minutes without stopping. Most species would have been exhausted after 5 minutes. When she finished, she was breathing hard but still able to speak normally. The murmuring grew louder. The third challenge was about precision. She was given a series of delicate glass sculptures and asked to move them from one table to another. Each one was incredibly fragile. Sarah moved slowly and carefully, using everything Kravik had taught her. She successfully moved all 12 sculptures without breaking a single one. This received the loudest applause yet. The Vor delegation leader stood and descended from his seat in the viewing area. He was even larger up close, easily 8 feet tall with claws that looked like they could cut through steel. His voice was deep and rumbling. "Impressive, Earthborn. But I have one more challenge, if you will accept it." Sarah glanced at the station master, who nodded permission. "What kind of challenge?" Sarah asked. "A test of will," the Vor leader said. "In my culture, strength is not just physical. It is also mental. I will attempt to intimidate you using my species' natural fear response projection. It is a psychic ability that causes most beings to freeze or flee. If you can stand your ground and not show fear, you will have earned my people's respect." Sarah had no idea what a fear response projection felt like, but she had faced plenty of scary things on Earth. Avalanches in the mountains, wild animals. The time she had to climb down a cliff face in a storm when the trail collapsed. She nodded. "I accept." The Vor leader closed his eyes and concentrated. A moment later, Sarah felt it. A wave of primal terror washed over her. Her instincts screamed at her to run, to hide, to get away from the predator in front of her. Her heart rate spiked. Her hands started to shake. But she did not move. She thought about her parents, who had taught her that fear was just information. It told you there might be danger, but it did not control your actions. She thought about her grandmother, who at 80 years old had looked a mountain lion in the eyes and calmly backed away without showing panic. She thought about every human throughout history who had faced impossible odds and survived because they refused to give up. Sarah took a deep breath and looked the Vor leader directly in his eyes. "That's a good trick," she said, her voice steady despite the fear still washing over her. "On Earth, we have spiders smaller than my thumbnail that can kill you. We have weather patterns that destroy entire cities. We have diseases that can spread invisibly through the air. We live with fear every day, but we keep going anyway. Not because we're fearless, but because we're stubborn." The Vor leader's eyes opened wide. The fear projection stopped immediately. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then slowly, he lowered his head in a gesture that looked like a bow. "The network was wise to flag your species," he said. "Humans are not just physically strong. You are mentally unbreakable. This is a rare combination. The Vor Empire would be honored to establish formal relations with Earth." The audience erupted in applause and various sounds of approval. The Vor delegation members were all making gestures of respect. Sarah felt her face get hot, but she managed to return the Vor leader's bow. After the demonstration, dozens of representatives wanted to speak with her. They asked about Earth, about human culture, about the possibility of exchange programs. Sarah answered their questions as best she could, always reminding them that she was just one human and could not speak for her entire species. Late that night, Sarah finally returned to her quarters. Kravik walked with her, as he had every day since she arrived. "You did well today," he said. "Better than well. You showed them that humans are strong without being aggressive, capable without being threatening. That is a difficult balance." "I just tried to be honest," Sarah said, "and I remembered what you taught me about control." "You were already learning control before I met you," Kravik said. "I just helped you understand why it mattered here. On Earth, being strong is an advantage. Here, being strong makes you responsible for those who are weaker. You have embraced that responsibility." They reached her door. Sarah turned to face Kravik. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for teaching me, protecting me, and being patient when I made mistakes." "It has been my honor," Kravik replied. "When I challenged you on your first day, I was arrogant and foolish. I thought strength was about dominance. You showed me it is about choice. The choice to help instead of hurt, to build instead of destroy. That is the real lesson of humanity." After Kravik left, Sarah sat by her window and looked at the stars. She thought about Earth, so far away, about her family and friends who had no idea what she had accomplished here, about the future and what role humans might play in the larger galaxy. Her communication panel beeped. A message from the station master appeared. "Sarah Chen, the Network Council has made a decision regarding Earth's status. Based on recent observations, including your presence here, they have agreed to sponsor 50 additional cultural exchange positions for humans. They have also granted Earth full membership status in the galactic community, with all rights and privileges. Congratulations, you have changed history." Sarah read the message 3 times, making sure she understood it correctly. 50 more humans would come to stations like this one. Earth would have a voice in galactic decisions. All because she had lifted a bulkhead and stood her ground against a psychic fear projection. She thought about what her teacher used to say back in school. One person cannot change the world. But that was on Earth, where there were billions of people. Out here, in the vastness of space, one person apparently could make a difference. Sarah opened a new message and began writing to her parents. She had a lot to tell them. About stopping a blade with her fingers, about learning that what seemed normal on Earth was extraordinary everywhere else, about representing an entire planet without meaning to, about finding strength she did not know she had and learning when not to use it. But mostly, she wanted to tell them that she finally understood what they had been preparing her for all those years in the mountains. Not just survival, but the wisdom to know that surviving was not enough. You had to help others survive too. Outside her window, the stars shone bright and infinite. Somewhere among them was Earth, the death world that had created a species too stubborn to quit and too kind to use their strength unwisely. Sarah smiled and continued writing. She had classes to teach tomorrow, students to inspire, cultures to bridge. And she was just getting started.